What is the greatest comeback in video game history? Well, first of all, I need to define what I mean by a comeback. A comeback to me means a turnaround, a situation where something has gone wrong or something has underperformed and then gone on to overcome those obstacles and succeed despite things looking bleak. For example, if my football team, or soccer for the Americans, is losing 3-0, but then they go on to win 5-3, that is what I would consider a great comeback. So, by my own set of rules, a video game must have been failing in some regard, be it in sales, performance or reviews, and then managed to turn it around and exceed not only where it stands, but what was expected of it. I can think of many examples such as Final Fantasy XIV, which had a very slow start but by now is largely successful. GTA Online experienced a similar pattern, but for this video I want to focus on two games in particular which I consider to have had the best comebacks that I have seen in gaming history. The internet has changed gaming completely, allowing developers to make changes, add patches, new content, updates and edit the game even after release. Before then, when a developer released a game, what you got is what you got. If there was an issue, well, that was part of the features now. We've seen a lot of gaming studios take advantage of this by releasing incomplete games and then they try to fix it after launch, which has led to a lot of frustration. But on the whole, it has been of great assistance and helped improve the quality of games. For this reason, the two games I'm going to be focused on have utilised this exact tool. The two games I'll be talking about are Cyberpunk 2077 and No Man's Sky. Two games that released to disappointment, but as of right now, they have made a significant return to form. In this video, I will discuss how their launch went, what they did to fix it, and finally, where they stand now. Quick side note, I just want to say thank you for watching the video. I'm Av Gaming, where we discuss pretty much anything gaming, so if you are a gamer or have interest in general, please consider subscribing. Thanks for your support as always. Anyway, back to the video. So let's start with Cyberpunk and the history of its disastrous launch in 2020. This developer, CD Projekt Red, promised a lot to their fans. Their last game was The Witcher 3, which was undeniably a masterpiece. It received high scores from everyone and it won Game of the Year in 2015. The open world RPG delivered with fantastic writing and rich amounts of content. It is considered by many, myself included, as one of the greatest games ever made. It had two main DLCs as well, both of which were not only fantastic, but well priced. CD Projekt Red released the Blood and Wine expansion for Witcher 3, and it was the size of a full game, but for half the price. It was voted as the greatest DLC of all time. They over-delivered on what was expected from a DLC, charged less than what they could have, and then said it was because the fans deserved it. Essentially, CD Projekt Red not only delivered a great game, but they established a reputation as a trustworthy developer who respected their fans. When they announced Cyberpunk 2077, everybody was expecting a lot. During an interview prior to the game's launch, the representatives made a lot of promises, which included purchasable properties, customizable vehicles, a wanted system, the ability to enter every building in-game, and much more. But the biggest promise that they made was that the game would run smoothly on both current gen and last gen. After several delays, the game finally came out in December of 2020, and it was bad. For current gen, the game ran well enough, but a lot of the promises that had been made were not present. Although the game was a solid entry, what was promised was not achieved. You couldn't enter every building, you couldn't customize cars or buy any property. The wanted system was pretty much broken. But the biggest promise that they broke is when they said that it would run well on last gen software. It did not. It was immediately apparent that it had not been tested. Before long, videos were up all over YouTube showcasing the glitches, the issues, the crashes. Fans' disappointment flooded social media and news outlets documented the disastrous launch that they had just witnessed. It was so bad that Sony took the game off the PlayStation Store. Over 30,000 refunds were issued. It was probably the worst release that I have ever seen. Not only did the game get a bad rep, but after all the hard work that CD Projekt Red had put in to earn their reputation, suddenly the trust was broken. CD Projekt Red stated that it had taken the wrong approach with the development of its Xbox One and PS4 versions, and the co-founder released a video statement reflecting on the run-up to the game's launch. He said, "I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that." There's other videos on YouTube that go into more depth on the launch of Cyberpunk if you want to find more details, but at this point, CD Projekt Red would start to work to redeem themselves. Now, they could have just walked away or made the game playable, but they actually put in a lot of work. Patches 1.2 and 1.3 released in March and August of 21, and this worked to clean up the game with its bugs and its structure. Essentially, they got the game into a playable state as it was. Then in February of 22, a big update arrived, patch 1.5, which began to finally allow the game to showcase its full potential. As well as performance and ray tracing modes being added, the game added new content, including 4 new apartments to purchase, character customization, new combat AI, crowd improvements making NPCs act like real people, realistic traffic, new combat, new perks, new cyberware, new quests, and UI improvements as well. Basically, they were starting to fix the game. Patch 1.6 then added more requested features like the ability to preview clothes in shops, arcade games were added, and after the success of the Netflix show Edge Runners, players new and old began returning to the game to find it in a much better state. Patch 2.0 released in September of 23, and if the previous patch showed the game finally at its best level, Patch 2.0 felt like the game they perhaps wanted to make all along. People finally had their police chases and vehicle combat. The crime system was added. Everything was finally to the level that the developers had promised. Just a few days later, and then the DLC expansion Phantom Liberty released for next gen. Although CD Projekt Red had managed to get the last gen version of the game running well, they knew that they had to let it go and focus on the current gen for their new release. Phantom Liberty released to much positive reviews, with PC Gamer giving it an 87%, IGN giving it a 9 out of 10, and it averaging 4.5 stars on Google out of 5. It featured an acting performance from Idris Elba, adding to the cast with Keanu Reeves. The new expansion was fantastic and really upped the levels of the base game, finally implementing well-written quests which had decision making that actually impacted the outcome. The final patch, 2.1, added romantic hangouts, metro transportation, gang fights, street vendors, and bar interaction mods. Now everything was there that had been promised from day one. Now, what we have here is not just a game that was promised, but so much more. No matter your opinion on CD Projekt Red's decision to launch, you cannot fault their work afterward. They worked tirelessly to get the game where it needed to be. Then they dropped a fantastic expansion, then added a little bit more on top. Now it is considered as one of the greatest RPG open world games ever made. It has a hugely detailed map, more than 80 side quests, 86 gigs, which are other side quests, 156 crime scenes, hundreds of weapons and vehicles, as well as well-written stories and characters. It has so much to offer and has some of the best graphics that I've seen in gaming. Although its launch was a disaster, as of right now, I would consider this game to be a marvel in video games. It took a few years after its release, but we finally got the game that we were promised. When you compare the initial release compared to what we have now, this is one of the greatest comebacks that I've seen in a game. To go from a meme, a joke, a laughingstock, to now being one of the greatest RPGs ever made is an unreal turnaround, and full credit to the team at CD Projekt Red for persevering. So that's one of the candidates, but now let's talk about No Man's Sky. When this game was initially announced, a lot of people were excited. It was a space travel game where you could travel to an infinite amount of planets with seamless travel and unmatched exploration. What they were pitching had never been done before, and their vision was beyond what most would expect. And then it arrived. Fans took to social media to provide feedback. A video had come out showcasing a lot of the game's content, and it appeared that what was shown was not present in the game. Overall, the game did deliver on its promise of being able to fly anywhere and visit endless planets, but the problem was, there was nothing to do. With almost 100 promises that flat out weren't even almost what they promised, and quite a lot of what was there was incredibly buggy and glitchy. The game scored 6 out of 10 with IGN and other major review platforms, but the general summary was that although the game was huge, it lacked any depth or reason to continue playing. No Man's Sky started out as a very solitary affair with exploration at the fore, but very little to actually find. Sure, you could land on a planet, you could name it, you could point to every creature and name those too, but that can only be fun for so long. It wasn't exactly exciting gameplay. No Man's Sky's main issue is that it was boring. It didn't have enough to do, limited tools and confusing UI. The worlds were there, the travel was there, but there wasn't much reason to keep playing. It was enjoyable for a short while, but after a time, most would grow tired of the repetitive cycle. People would praise the ambition from the company, but they would move on to the next big game almost immediately. So what did the creator, Hello Games, decide to do? Well, they put their head down and got to work. They began by adding free DLCs and patches in an attempt to breathe life back into the game. They added things such as base building, new quests, multiplayer experiences, ocean exploration, abandoned ships with scary stories, companions, new RPG elements, VR compatibility, crossplay and much more. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to show the updates here on my screen. Each of these is a new update provided for free by Hello Games to improve the content available in No Man's Sky. To save you the time of counting, I already did it. There's been over 200 updates on this game. 200. From being a game that had limited content, it's probably received more content additions than any other game ever. Every single update has been absolutely massive, bringing with it a huge list of incredibly impactful new gameplay features. I look back at what launched versus what we have right now, and frankly, it'd be unfair to even compare the two. Back in 2016, No Man's Sky didn't have lofty ambitions of online multiplayer, base building, and nuanced combat. It was about exploring a universe that only a handful of curious aliens and hostile mercenaries called home. Now the game has all of that and much more. There is now so much content that a YouTube video would really struggle to summarize it. If you were to start the game now, you'd never run out of things to do and reasons to play. If you look online now and you search for reviews on this game for 2024, what you'll find is fans gushing about how amazing the game is. The studio set out what they wanted to do and then went above and beyond. It went from a stale launch to a must-have for fans of the space exploration genre. The comeback from this game is unbelievable, and you have to give credit to Hello Games for not giving up on their game. By constantly providing new updates, they have created one of the best online exploration games of all time. Being able to do all of this with friends on the Switch or VR is absolutely amazing. Now, they could have left it alone at launch and said this is it, but Hello Games continued to update, upgrade and improve every chance they got. Now if you pick up No Man's Sky, it is night and day compared to its original launch. So what we have here are two games that both underdelivered in their initial arrival, overpromised and then underachieved. They didn't start at zero, they started behind the ball. They were already less than what we expected, but both of these developers continued to plug away and kept releasing patches and updates in order to meet their original vision. The fact both of these studios did it for free really speaks volumes of their respect for their fans. They promised their fans one thing and made sure that no matter how many updates it took, that it would one day happen. I also feel like they did it for themselves. They saw their launch and almost said, "We can do better, we need to do better," and did not stop until the product was as good, if not better, than what they had promised. In my opinion, these are the two games I consider to have had the best comebacks in video game history. But the question is, which had the best comeback? Well, that's up to you to decide. I made this video for two reasons. First reason is to have the general discussion in what is the greatest comeback in gaming history. The second reason is that I wanted to give props to both these game developers, both Hello Games and CD Projekt Red. These two developers could have left these games in the state that they were in. They could have just taken the cash that they got and said, "Sorry guys, it is what it is. We're moving on to the next game to make more money." as a lot of studios would do. However, these two stuck true to their vision. They wanted their games to reach their potential, and so they went back, patched, edited, and updated until they saw their vision achieved and the promises that they'd made fans delivered. So thank you CDPR and Hello Games for not giving up and showing that some gaming studios put quality and fan service above the dollar signs. Anyway, that's it for this one. I mean, what do you guys think? Which of these, in your opinion, has had the best comeback? Do you feel like there's another game more deserving of the title? If so, why? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis, identifying what makes great games great and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.